Hello students, welcome back to my video again. In this video I am going to continue with the molecular basis of DNA chapter. This is the part 2 I am going to continue with. So in the first part I have discussed about the DNA structure, the basic structure of the DNA, the composition, how the structure is made up of, we have discussed. Okay. So now few next topics I am going to discuss with you. First is the nucleosome that I am going to discuss with you. Okay, nucleosome. So I hope all of you have heard this term nucleosome. Okay, so this nucleosome is, what is this actually? Where this is the structure where we see, if you look at the DNA, okay, if you look at the DNA, suppose a thread-like structure, thread-like structures, okay, this is the DNA strand, okay. Now in the DNA strand, you will see some beads-like structures present in the DNA. Okay, it looks like this. So this is called beads on the threads structure. It looks like this. Now each of these beads, if we look into it, okay, then we will see some compositions here. But the rest of the blue thread, the blue part, is the DNA. Okay, there should not be any confusion in it. We are talking, I am going to talk about these beads. What exactly here? If I magnify this part, then what we will see here? If I magnify one of the bead, then what exactly I will see here? We will see here. Let's see. The beads where we will see the DNA. Okay, there are, first of all, we will see proteins, a specific proteins which are present there, and these proteins are called histone proteins. Okay, and remember, these histone proteins, there are 8 histone molecules are there together at a particular bead. 8 histone molecules are there. Okay, so what are those molecules? Look like this. Suppose 1 molecule, okay, 2 molecule, 3 molecule, 4 molecule, 5 molecule, 6 molecule, okay, 7, and suppose here 8 molecule. Okay, 8 histone molecules are here. So if I name them H1, sorry, H2A, 2 H2A molecules are there, 2 H2B molecules are there, okay, 2 H3 molecules are there, okay, and 2 H4 molecules are there. So these are different histone proteins which are present. Okay, so altogether how many? 8 histone molecules are there. This structure is known as histone octamer. What is called as histone octamer? 8 histone molecules are together at a particular location. And now the DNA thread, the DNA, okay, it wraps around the histone molecule. It wraps around the histone molecule. Okay, so if I make the DNA, okay, as a red, let me use the red for the DNA here. So the DNA wraps around it. Okay, it means the DNA we know that is a double helical structure. Okay, so the DNA that wraps around it like this, of a differently again some structure may DNA will start from here like okay. So you see here how the DNA, this is the DNA thread, okay, one single DNA thread starts from here, okay, and this is the direction how the DNA thread wraps around the histone octamer. I hope you understand from this diagram how the DNA thread, DNA strands, okay, one single DNA that wraps around the histone molecules, 8 histone molecules, okay. So this is the structure where this histone octamer, okay, wrapped by DNA strand is known as nucleosome. This is what the nucleosome looks like, and this is one bit, this is a one single bit, one nucleosome, okay. So this concept of nucleosome and the association of the proteins with the DNA, okay, this was given by the scientist known as Audet et al. In 1975. Okay, he first proposed the concept of nucleosome, okay, in the nucleus and the association of the protein with the DNA. This is what nucleosome is, okay. And now thing is that two questions can come from here that may arise in our mind, that how the DNA exists with protein. If you remember that the DNA structure, how the DNA is made up of, we have seen that different chemical bonds are there. We have studied about glycosidic bonds, we have seen the phosphodiester bonds, we have seen the hydrogen bonds. So the entire DNA strand is made up of various these bonds. So how the DNA here exists with the proteins? Is there any chemical bond in between them that binds them together? How they are existing together? Okay. The answer is that there is no chemical bond in between the DNA and the proteins. Then how they exist together? Okay. Remember, the DNA is negatively charged. Okay. DNA is negatively charged. Why? Because of the presence of the phosphate group. Okay, the phosphate group is negatively charged in the DNA. So that makes the entire DNA negatively charged. Okay. Now the proteins, now if you look at the proteins, proteins are made up of what are the basic building blocks of proteins? Amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. There are 20 different types of amino acids which makes up all the different proteins. Okay. Now the histone proteins, there two different amino acids are there. One is, so proteins here, proteins are here positively charged. Okay, why positively charged? Because of the presence of arginine and lysine. These are the two amino acids which are positively charged. So we see in the proteins two positively charged side chains, okay, polypeptide chains, okay, of arginine and lysine. Both of these amino acids are positively charged. That is why the protein becomes positively charged. So we can understand that a positive charge can definitely exist with a protein. Negative charge. A negative charge can exist with the positive charge. It's attraction, the force, okay, that binds them together, that makes them, that allowing them to exist together. A negative charge can definitely exist with a positive charge. Okay. Same charge repulsion is there, but the opposite charge attraction is there, right? So this is how they exist here. Now this is the first question is clear. The next question may come in the mind, that Why they exist together? How we have seen? How answer is this? Now why they exist together? Why DNA needs to be there with the proteins? Okay. Now I'm writing this here. See, okay, let me first tell you here. What is the function of DNA? If you look into the function of the DNA separately and the protein separately, the question will be answered. What is the function of the DNA here? DNA carries genetic material. DNA carries genetic material or genetic informations from one generation to the next generation. DNA carries genetic material or the genes from one generation to next generation. It means that DNA is basically carrying the genetic information for a particular character. DNA's function is done. What protein is doing? Proteins actually helps in expressing the character. By utilizing the genetic informations, protein helps in expressing the character. That is the function of the protein. That is why DNA and protein exist together. Without protein, okay, the genetic informations cannot be expressed. The genetic informations are carried by DNA from one generation to next generation, but the genetic information needs to be expressed. That expression is done by the protein. Okay, so without protein, the informations, genetic informations, the character cannot be expressed. That is why DNA exists with protein. Understood? I always give a very common example to the students to understand the functional relationship between DNA and the protein here in nucleosome. Suppose an office clerk, okay, who takes the marker or a chalk from an office, okay, and keeps it on the table. Okay, the chalk or the marker is there on the table in the classroom. Okay, brought by whom? The clerk. Okay, teacher came here. Now teacher, once he comes in the class, he utilizes the marker or the chalk. He used the marker or the chalk right on the board, and the expression of the chalk or the board or the marker comes on the board. So here the clerk is the DNA, okay, chalk is the gene. Okay, so DNA's function is just to carry the gene from the office to the board, to the classroom. Clerk, what he has done, okay, just brought the chalk or the marker from the office to the classroom. DNA's function is done. DNA carries the gene from one generation to next generation. DNA's function is done. Clerk's job is done. Now the next job is done by the protein, the teacher. Teacher come, utilize the chalk or the marker, writes on the board, so the expression comes here. That's the same function done by the protein. Protein utilizes genetic information, okay, and express it. That is how the DNA and the proteins are functionally related. Without protein, the expression of the gene won't take place. Understood? So this is why they exist together. The logic behind this. Okay, I hope you understood what is nucleosome. Now, the chromatin fibers. DNA with the beads means we actually see the chromatin fibers with the beads. Chromatin fibers where we see the DNA. Okay, so these chromatin fibers in the nucleoplasm, okay, during the metaphase stage they condense and the chromosome comes in existence. Chromosomes. So to form the chromosomes, chromatin fibers needs to be condensed. Okay, and the chromosomes become visible. Okay, so in the prophase, the visibility of chromosome comes here. Condensation starts, condensation takes place, chromosome become visible by the end of the prophase or in the beginning of the metaphase. So this condensation of the chromatin fiber, okay, needs some additional proteins along with the histone proteins. The chromatin fibers also need some additional proteins for better condensation. Okay, and those proteins are known as non-histone chromosomal protein. Non-histone chromosomal protein. So apart from the histone proteins, in the chromatin fibers we also see non-histone chromosomal proteins. So NHCP, non-histone chromosomal proteins, okay, are there in the chromatin fiber. It helps in condensation. Okay. Apart from this, there is euchromatin and there is heterochromatin. What are these? There are part of the chromosomes after condensation. I am telling, there are parts of the chromosomes which are loosely packed. In the condensation, after condensation, in the chromatin 5 chromosomes, we see some parts which are loosely packed, okay, and stains light. That part is known as euchromatin. Okay, so two concepts. One is euchromatin, another is heterochromatin. Okay, euchromatin is the part of the chromosome which is loosely packed and stains light. Heterochromatin is the part which is densely packed and stains dark. Okay, so this one, number one, loosely packed and stains light, euchromatin. Heterochromatin is what? Number one, it is densely packed and stains dark. Okay, so that is what the euchromatin and the heterochromatin. Remember, euchromatin is considered as, better for, transcription. Transcriptionally more active is the euchromatin part. Okay, remember this one. Transcriptionally more active is the euchromatin part. Okay, so it is written in your book. You can see euchromatin is said to be transcriptionally active chromatin, whereas heterochromatin is inactive. Okay, this is the basic difference between euchromatin and the heterochromatin. Fine. So this is the few informations of the nucleosome concept, and these are also some few facts here I have discussed. Now, next topic we are supposed to start with. Just 1 second. Let me just check with the memory here. Just 1 second. Okay. So next we will see the Griffith's experiment. We will see Griffith's experiment. Okay. In 1928, Frederick Griffith has come up with an experiment. He utilized a bacteria known as Streptococcus pneumoniae. Okay, Streptococcus pneumoniae, which is responsible for pneumonia. It's a bacteria which is responsible for pneumonia. Streptococcus, spherical shaped bacteria, responsible for pneumonia. What he did is that in the lab he has cultured this Streptococcus pneumoniae bacteria in a medium, nutrient medium in the lab. Okay. So when he was culturing, it's a nutrient medium, okay, where he has cultured some Streptococcus pneumoniae bacteria there. Okay, what he has seen is that while growing, some of these bacteria, they came up with smooth shining surface. They came up with some smooth shining surface. Suppose these are some of the bacteria here with smooth shining surface. Okay, and some of them, or some of the bacteria, they don't have the smooth shining coating. He has found that this smooth shining coating over the bacteria is because of mucus. Mucus is a polysaccharide. Okay, there is a polysaccharide coating, mucus coating over some of the bacteria has developed, and that makes it smooth and shiny. So smooth and shiny, that's why these bacteria are known as, he named as S strain bacteria with smooth shining coat. Okay, and the rest without the coating known as R strain bacteria. R for rough, R for rough. Okay, rough surface, because they don't have the smooth shining coating, right? So their surface is rough. That's an R strain bacteria. So two types of bacteria he has found grown in this nutrient medium. Now what he did is that he injected this S strain bacteria in mice. So first what he did, S strain bacteria he injected in the mice. Okay, and what he observed, that the mice died. Clear? Secondly, he injected this R strain bacteria in the mice, and the mice did not die, they are living. Okay, this is the first step of his experiment. First, A strain bacteria were injected in the mice and they died. Secondly, R strain bacteria injected in the mice and they did not die, they are alive, they remain alive. Okay, first step. Now what Griffith did, he killed this S strain bacteria by providing heat. By heating, he killed the bacteria. Okay, particularly the S strain bacteria. And then what he did, this is the first step. Second step, this heat killed S strain bacteria. Okay, he injected in the mice, and in this case he found that the mice are alive here, they did not die. Okay, when heat killed A strain bacteria injected in the mice were alive. Third step, what he did is that he mixed up this heat killed A strain bacteria with the live R strain bacteria. Okay, fourth one, what he did, he mixed up the heat killed S strain bacteria with the live R strain bacteria, and then it was injected. Okay, then it was injected in the mice, and this time the mice died. This time it was found that the mice died. See the third step and the fourth step carefully. When the heat killed, only the sole heat killed A strain bacteria were injected, the mice were alive. When the heat killed A strain bacteria mixed up with the live R strain bacteria, this time the mice died. Okay, what he has concluded from this experiment is that, and he said that some transformation principle, okay, some transformation principle that is actually entered or could, transform the R strain bacteria into S strain bacteria. Okay, that he said is that, let me tell the exact term here. Yes, see, he in our NCERT, he concluded that R strain bacteria had somehow been transformed by the heat killed S strain bacteria. So this live R strain bacteria transformed by this heat killed S strain bacteria. That is what the conclusion should be, right? Because when only heat killed was injected, they were alive. But when mixed up with the R strain, they died. It means that somehow R strain become poisonous, because when live R strain was introduced, they were alive. But then when the live R strain mixed up with the heat killed S strain, they were died. It means as they were died, they did not do anything. But somehow R strain bacteria is transformed, and somehow this S strain bacteria help in transforming this R strain bacteria into S strain bacteria. That is what Griffith concluded. So he said that some transforming principle transferred from the S strain bacteria. Some transforming principle, okay, some transforming principle transferred from the heat kill bacteria to the R strain bacteria, and then it transformed the R strain bacteria, okay, which ultimately kills it. It means that, see here what happens is that he could not tell about what exactly transferred, what exactly transferred and transformed the R strain bacteria. He could not tell anything about this, okay, but he concluded, he assumed that yes, some transformation principle that has been transferred from the S strain bacteria into the R strain bacteria, and it is transformed into active poisonous nature, which ultimately kill the mice. And he also said that this is the genetic material which actually transferred from the S strain to R strain bacteria. He mentioned about this. This is the genetic material that transferred from the S strain bacteria to R strain bacteria, which actually helps in transforming the R strain bacteria into poisonous S strain form, and which killed the mice. Okay, so he spoke about that transforming principle. Okay, he spoke about this what? Number one, transforming principle. Okay, and also he spoke about genetic material which is transferred. Okay, but he could not say anything about what exactly is that. Okay, later on, three scientists named there in the book: Oswald Avery, number one; number two, Colin MacLeod, and Maclean McCarty. These are three scientists, okay, who again did this experiment what Griffith did, and they came up with the conclusion that DNA is the genetic material. DNA is the genetic material which is actually transferred from the S strain bacteria into the R strain bacteria. They found the presence of the DNA, okay, in the R strain bacteria. The DNA of the S strain bacteria, okay, they found in the R strain bacteria, and that is why they said that it is a DNA which has actually transferred from S strain to R strain bacteria. Okay, they have said about it. Understood? So they concluded about this. They told about the DNA which is actually transferred from here to S strain to R strain bacteria and make them poisonous. Actually, the coating, the smooth shining coating by the mucus is actually the poison. This is actually the poison, okay, produced by the DNA. Understood? So when the DNA transferred here, it transforms the genetic substances in the R strain bacteria and helps in producing this mucus layering poison, and which ultimately kills the mice. Okay, so this was about this Griffith's experiment and the three people who ultimately told about the DNA, which actually specifically could not could not be said by Griffith. So this is what about this DNA transforming material. Okay, now on this one more experiment, Hershey and Chase experiment. Okay, they have proved finally that yes, it is the DNA which is actually transferred from, which can transfer from bacteria to virus, or virus to bacteria, or bacteria to bacteria. Okay, Hershey and Chase experiment proved that. Okay, we will do that experiment also. Let me just check once the memory here. Okay, students, let's do one thing. I'm going to upload this video. Okay, in my next video I am going to continue with the Hershey-Chase experiment, okay, which proves that DNA is the genetic material. DNA is that transforming principle, okay, that ultimately that can transfer from bacteria to bacteria, or virus to bacteria, or they can transfer. DNA is genetic material. It is proved by Hershey and Chase experiment. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you understood whatever I have discussed today. Make your own note, okay? And if you have any doubt after watching the video, please do ask me, okay? While listening to my video, note down your doubts. Watch this video again and again. Okay, I hope that most of your questions will be answered, and then if not, I am always there to help you. Okay, and wait for the next video. As soon as possible I am going to upload the next video also. Thank you so much.